What's going on, guys? I know it's been a while since I've done a live in this group, so just appreciate your patience, and I appreciate everybody kind of re-engaging and just paying attention to some of the things we have going on as I'm just revitalizing the group a little bit. So I know I haven't showed face in a while, so I'm giving y'all a minute to hop on. As we're doing that, let me know whether you're watching this live or on the replay. Comment below, hashtag live or hashtag replay. Let me know city, state, city, and country if you're out of the country, like where you're watching this video from. And then we're going to get into it. So somebody just hopped on. I don't know who that is. Come say what's up. And then I'll get into my topic for today. So today I'm going to be talking about, I made a couple announcements about it. Whether you saw it or not, doesn't matter. Today I'm going to be talking about how former athletes can stay in shape while transitioning to a demanding job. And we're going to do all this without spending 3 hours a day in the gym, because I understand that can be the common belief. So this type of training, and we may run a little longer than a usual live I do, upwards of 20, 30 minutes. Who this is for? This type of training is for someone who was an athlete, whether that been in high school or in college, and then you struggled to make the transition to whatever job you have now, right? Like you're somebody who, you went to practice every day, you were in great shape in high school and college, or maybe you lifted weights in college or whatever the case is, but now you found that transitioning to your job has made it very difficult to keep up with your routines and your fitness routines. Or you just feel lost without that structure of having your sport. This is also for people who know what to do, right? Like you have the knowledge. Obviously, if you were an athlete before, you know what to do. You know how to work out. You have the work ethic. You kind of somewhat maybe know how nutrition works. But you're just not doing the things that you know how to do because you're not being held accountable, or you don't have the structure, or because of work. Work is taking up so much of your time. And you don't know how to go in moderation. All you know is 0 to 100, 100 to 0, right? You're either doing it at a high level, or you're not doing it at a high level, or you're not doing it at all, rather. And lastly, if you're somebody who is tired of feeling lethargic, tired of feeling less athletic, like you can't go out and play with your kids, like you can't go out and run a mile, like you can't go play catch if you really wanted to, play a game of pickup basketball, just do the regular things you used to be able to do. If you feel weird about not being able to do those things now, and just overall less confident, not feeling like yourself in general, and that's affecting your ability to sell, or that's affecting your ability to be a 5-star parent or a husband at home, or even at work, it's affecting your ability to be a leader in the highest capacity, then this training is going to be for you. So why is this topic so important to you guys? Why did I pick this topic specifically? Because there's a million things we could talk about regarding health and fitness. Well, for you guys specifically, the type of people in this group, ex-athletes, type A, personalities, sales pros, end up being the same person a lot of times. There's a lot of commonalities there. If you don't learn this stuff that I'm going to be teaching today, you may continue to make some of the mistakes that you've been making and then struggle to get back into your health routines. You may continue to not prioritize your health because you don't actually think it's possible. Like you figured, oh man, there's no way I can get back in the shape I was in high school or college, or get back in the best shape of my life, because I'm a parent, I just work too much, or whatever stories and excuses you're telling yourself. There's no way I can do it. That's too much of a time commitment. There's no way I can do it without meal prepping on my meals and being in the gym as much as I was before. Like I'm just not at that stage of life anymore, right? And then you kind of struggle to get back into your routines. And it's also important because, man, if you're not feeling confident in yourself, one thing I've noticed with a lot of specifically ex-athletes, you may not be overtly out of shape. Like it may not be something where you're 50 pounds overweight and people can kind of see that change. It may only be 10, 15 to 20 pounds and no one else notices it. So no one else calls you out on it. And quite frankly, no one's going to call you out on that anyway. Like most people are not like that, but it's not something anyone else can notice, but maybe you notice it. Maybe you notice that, when you look in the mirror, maybe you're not happy with what you see. And you just don't like how you're feeling on a daily basis. But that's not completely obvious to the outside world if anyone else were looking at you. If you were to complain about how you look, somebody would be like, you look fine. And they would probably just blow it off and make it not seem like a big deal. But to you, it may feel that way. So if you're kind of feeling like nobody understands that, then this training is for you. And that's another reason that this stuff is so important, because if you're continuing to feel that way, then it's going to be less likely for you to do something about it until somebody kind of calls you out for it. So that's another reason for this. And then, lastly, I just don't want you guys to stay complacent if that's something that you struggle with. So before we get into the actual solutions that we're going to talk about in terms of the actual content of the video, in terms of how we can actually take former athletes and help them stay in shape without spending 3 hours a day in the gym while they're like transitioning to a job. First, I think we got to get clear on some common mistakes, things that you guys are probably already doing, things that are kind of different for you now. You got to realize how life is different for you now that you're not playing sports as it was when you were. So I'm going to talk about 6 common mistakes that former athletes typically make when trying to get back in their health and fitness, or just reasons that they struggle to get back in shape after sports are over. So mistake number 1, if you're taking notes, you're going to want to write this stuff down. Mistake number 1 is not having a purpose, right? So when you played sports back in the day, and some of you guys may have seen this type of topic on my personal page before. Now, if you're somebody who's played a sport before, you always had a purpose. Before there was this goal to get better at your sport. So you were showing up to practice every day, showing up to the weight room, going on runs. You may have been doing work on your own, but it was all designed with the end in mind, right? Like you were always trying to get better at your sport. And now that you're dedicated to work, that's your purpose. Now you're kind of like focused on being the best parent you can be, being the best boss, leader, salesman, whatever it is you do for work. You kind of focus on that as if the health and fitness stuff doesn't exist anymore, right? So not having a clear and defined purpose for your health now and pivoting your goals is something, or even your why is a big mistake I see people make. Mistake number 2, not having a program that's specific to your goals right now. So we just talked about not having a purpose at all. Like some of you guys don't even think about what your goals are after sports are over. Like once high school football's done, you're like, I'm just trying to get back in the gym. You don't have like a clear defined purpose or goal for yourself. But then once you have that goal, not having a specific program for your goals is the second big mistake I'll see former athletes make when it comes to getting back in shape. Like think about it, guys. If you played sports back in the day, you used to have all the guesswork taken out of it for you. Like you never really had to think about what your program was. Whether it was in season or off season, you just show up to the weight room and coach is telling you what to do. Or you just go to practice and you do the warm-ups that you know how to do because that's what you were taught. You went through some type of routine. And then, whoever was leading the practice, whether it was the captains or the coaches, they took you through the practice. You didn't really have to guess about it. And you knew it was going to work because it was taking you somewhere. It was always designed with the end in mind. Again, it was always designed to be in alignment with your goals. It's very specific. If you're a swimmer, you're not training like a football player, you're training like a swimmer, right? It's very specific to your goals. And it was designed to be in alignment with your purpose, which was getting better at your sport, again. So now the big mistake kind of compounds because I find what guys do after the fact, after sports are done, is they're just doing things that they remember back in the day when their goals aren't the same. So for example, if you're somebody who played high school football, it's been 5 years since that's been over, and now you try to head back in the gym, and you work a full-time job in sales, you're working 50, 60 hours a week, whatever the case is, and you're just going in and doing the shit you remember from football practice back in the day. And we know that's not going to work because your goals aren't the same. You haven't pivoted your program in alignment with your new goals that you have for yourself. Jen, what's going on? Number 3, not working your goals into your new schedule. So this is probably one of the more obvious mistakes because I think when you play sports, you have more time for it. Like your life is kind of designed around that. Like if you're in high school or college, it's like, there's a time accounted for practice and you just make it work. You have study hall, you have class, homework, whatever the case is. All your priorities are just accounted for. But now that you work a full-time job or you run your own business or you work in sales or you have a family and that takes most of your week, it's hard to fit that into your new schedule. Like nowadays, you don't have 3 hours a day to go to the gym anymore. You don't have time to go to the dining hall 3 times a day and eat whatever foods that you want and have the chef prepare your food, like if that's what you had access to in college. Like it just doesn't work like that anymore. So one mistake I'll see people make that used to play sports is they don't work their goals and their program into their new schedule. They're still trying to do things how they were done back in the day when they don't have the time for that anymore. Or even worse, they don't believe it's possible because they think that's the only way to get it done, spending 3 hours a day in the gym. Number 4 big mistake I'll see former athletes make when it comes to trying to get back into shape after sports are over. Not having a coach. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a coach. I'm saying that because it's the truth and I know how you guys work. Think about it. When you went to practice before, you were just used to showing up and having the guesswork taken out of it for you. You didn't really have to think about what was going on at practice. You didn't have to think about anything that was beyond your pay grade, so to speak, or your responsibility as a player or an athlete, right? Like anything that required like planning and logistics, coaches took care of it. All you had to do, it was designed in a way for all you had to do is show up and just do the work. And that's how you work best. You work best being held accountable. You work best just having the guesswork taken out of it for you. And you have the work ethic. You just need that extra push, that guidance, that accountability. So not having a coach, and then maybe you didn't learn maybe you also didn't learn what went into your success. Like you didn't learn the science behind it. You didn't learn how the programming actually works, how the nutrition actually works. So trying to go ahead and replicate it on your own with all these factors on top of you, just being busy, having less time overall, being stressed with the full-time job, kids, wife, whatever you've got going on personally, and then trying to do all this on your own without a coach, it can feel like a complete 180 from what you're used to. Mistake number 5, big mistake number 5 that former athletes commonly make when it comes to getting back into their health and fitness goals is not having structure. Very similar to not having a coach, not having structure can equally be as bad. So think about it. When you played sports, you were used to having that accountability from your teammates, and it was built into your life as a student. You knew that you woke up, you went to practice at the same time every day, or you went to class, you went to practice at the same time every day. Now, if you didn't show up to practice, if you just decided to skip that day, you were probably going to hear it from your parents, you were going to hear it from your coaches, you were going to hear it from your teammates, you're going to feel like you let other people down. There was a system of accountability and there were consequences if you didn't show up to practice. Not only are you not getting better if you don't show up to practice, but you're also not going to play in the game. You're going to get benched for stuff like that. So having that structure, not having that structure now can be detrimental because that's what you're used to, right? And that's where you were most successful and most consistent because these are the types of things that went into it. Now, you take what you do now, I'm willing to bet for most of you guys, whether you go to the gym or you don't go to the gym, no one cares, right? Like no one's clapping for you if you woke up at 6 a.m. to go to the gym before work. Also, if you sleep in and snooze your alarm and go to the gym, and don't go to the gym rather, and you just go into work and you don't keep that commitment to yourself, no one's calling you out for it. No one really cares either way. So that can make it a little difficult for you in terms of getting back in shape because it's just you versus you. And maybe you struggle to hold yourself accountable in that regard. And then number 6 common mistake is not developing a new identity once sports are over, right? So I always think when it comes to accomplishing goals or getting big results for yourself, you must act as if, right? You must see yourself a certain way, and then the actions kind of follow after, if that makes sense. It's like a lot of people think about this concept the other way around. They think they do the things, like if you want to be a millionaire, they think that they got to do the work first and then see themselves as a millionaire. But I think it's the other way around. If you want to be a millionaire, you see yourself as a millionaire first and then act like that person would act, and it comes a little more natural. So I think it's the same thing with sports. Right before, you saw yourself as an athlete, like that was your identity and it was built into your life. So it was very easy to go to practice and go to the games, dress a certain way, talk a certain way, act a certain way, and do the things that athletes did. But now that sports are over, you may see yourself as a husband, as a father, as an employee, as an employer, as a salesman, right? And all these little stereotypes and identity conflicts that come into play, you don't see yourself as an athlete anymore. So you see yourself maybe as a typical father your age or a typical husband your age, and maybe the people around you that share the same role as you aren't working out. They're not going to the gym consistently. So now you struggle to make the time for your health or your fitness, go to the gym, prep your food, sleep enough, do all the things that make you successful in this area of your life. And you struggle to do that because you don't see yourself as that person anymore. Like you saw yourself as the athlete, and now that you're not an athlete anymore, you struggle to do the things that made you athletic, if that makes sense. So I share all these 6 points because I want you guys to, maybe this is stuff you haven't thought about before. Maybe you've struggled with, I'm a little hot in here. Maybe you struggle with getting back into shape, but you never really thought about why. All you know is you got busy and then life got in the way and this kind of fell by the wayside. But the more clarity you have on your problems, the more you open yourself up to receiving the right solution so that you can actually get to the next level with this stuff. So if anything, I just want to get the ball rolling in terms of thoughts. Maybe you could pinpoint one or more of these areas where you're really struggling in. So 1 through 6, if you're watching this replay, I want you guys to go ahead and comment below which of these you can relate to the most. Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6? You can say more than one. You can say all of them. I'm just curious to hear from you guys. which one you feel like deserves the most of your attention right now. And if y'all just need a quick reminder on that, number 1 is not having a purpose. Number 2, not having a program specific for your goals. Number 3, big mistake, not working your goals into your new schedule or your lifestyle. Number 4, not having a coach. Number 5, not having the structure. And then number 6 is not developing a new identity around the life you want to create for yourself. 6 big common mistakes former athletes make when it comes to getting back in shape. Comment below. Let me know which one of those is the biggest problem area for you right now. And then I'll get into the next section of this. So those are the common mistakes people make. Again, just wanted to shed some light on that so you kind of know where you're at and understand that this stuff is normal. If you ever thought you were the only one going through this, that's not the case. I've definitely gone through a few of these things myself. When I was transitioning from playing football and running track to, going to college and not really knowing what the hell I was doing, spent like 4 years trying to figure out the right way to work out and eat right so I could finally start seeing results. So anytime I can shorten this learning curve for you guys so you can get there in less time than I did, I'm always all about it. So let's get into the solutions. And you guys guessed it. If those are the common mistakes, these are going to be the equal and opposite of those mistakes in terms of the solutions. So first thing we want to do, we want to define a new compelling reason for yourself and find your why. Right? Like I think in order to be consistent with anything, you've got to find something that makes you actually want to show up and do it. Like a lot of ex-athletes I talk to on a daily basis, they'll tell me things like very generic, like, I just want to get back into shape. I just want to get back in the gym. I just want to get on a routine. And those are honest answers, but they're so surface level that they're not compelling enough to actually want to do anything about it. Right? You guys get that? Like if somebody comes up to you and says, yeah, I just want to get back in the gym. Like what? There's nothing really compelling about that, even if it's the truth. So I'm always the guy asking, why is that? Like, what do you actually want? Like getting clear on those things. Because it doesn't have to be noble to the world. It doesn't have to be some grand cause. It's just got to be compelling enough for you to actually want to take action on this stuff. Right? So first thing we got to do in terms of a solution for my former athletes is defining a new compelling reason and a purpose for yourself and finding your why. Maybe it's not going varsity. Maybe it's not going D1 anymore. Maybe it's not going to the NFL, MLB, whatever you wanted to do when you were a kid. Maybe your purpose now is just getting back to how you felt. Maybe it's getting back down to 200 pounds, having a six-pack. Could be just liking the way you look and feel on a daily basis. Not getting winded when you play with your son in the front yard. Being able to run a 5K. Being able to go on vacation with your wife and not feeling ashamed to take your shirt off. Right? Wanting to have your sex drive back. You and your wife feel like you haven't been as intimate as you would have liked. Feel like your relationship is on the rocks because of stuff like that. Getting back to who you were when you first met her. Stuff like that. Just fine. It doesn't have to be anything I mentioned. It just has to be important enough for you to want to take action. And I think the common mistake for athletes is once sports are over, they don't find that new compelling reason for themselves to actually want to get up and do the work. Because it's got to be something that's going to drive you on the days where you don't feel like doing the work. Because you're not going to want to do this stuff every day. Number 2, commit to executing those basics at a high level. Right? Like pretty much, I guess the checklist that went into your success before might have been a 3-hour practice. It might have been extra sessions on a weekend. It could have been meeting with a trainer or a coach on the side. It could have been studying your playbook with your friends. Like there were just all these things that went into it. I think we need to commit to less things. And, naturally as an athlete, you're going to want to overcommit because you just like to do things at 100 miles an hour and get fast results. But I'd almost rather you simplify and execute those things at a high level. Find the fundamentals, and this is stuff I talk about in my front level program, just the right habits that we're building in order to lose your first 10 to 15 pounds. But commit to executing the fundamentals at a high level. Simplify more than anything. Simplify before you optimize. A lot of athletes, they want to be perfect. They want to get all the little variables right. They want to just make sure they're doing everything right, 100 miles an hour. Simplify. Find the 2 or 3 or 4 biggest things that, aren't that time consuming, but are going to move the needle in the right direction the most, right? So you probably don't need to be focused on supplements and eating 6 meals a day. That could look more like just working out a few times a day or a few times a week and making sure you're eating right, sleeping enough, keeping it simple, focusing more of your energy on those things than what supplements you're taking. Oh, is this the right protein? Am I taking enough creatine? How many meals a day should I eat? Should I do fasted cardio? Like worrying about all the higher level stuff when you don't need to be worried about that yet. So commit to executing the fundamentals at a high level is the second solution. Number 3, we're going to want to pivot with your goals and set new expectations and standards, right? So I just talked about finding a different why for yourself, finding a reason that you actually want to get back in the gym or get back into your health routines or lose 20 pounds or whatever. Now let's actually make specific goals. Again, your goal isn't to go varsity anymore. It might be lose 20 pounds. Get clear on those goals. Set new expectations and standards. Like, don't be expecting yourself to be the same level of athleticism that you were in college football if you're not willing to put that type of time commitment in. So I think a lot of this process is just keeping your expectations realistic and just setting them from the jump so you don't get disappointed. Setting new standards. Okay, well, if you only have 2 hours a week to commit to your health, to commit to the gym or to commit to your workouts, we got to make that work. So that might look like 4 30-minute workouts at the gym, instead of doing 2 or 3 hours a day like you were before. So just bringing your standards and your expectations to match what your new goals are. Number 4, solution to actually getting back in shape as an ex-athlete without spending 3 hours a day in the gym is get the help and accountability that you need, because you typically work well with that, right? Like what I mentioned in the first section, you guys are coachable. You guys work well with accountability. You guys work well with guidance. You guys work well with the guesswork taken out of it for you. You guys work best when all you got to do is show up and do the work. You don't need your hand held. You don't need anybody up your ass, but you need that tough love sometimes, and you need the guesswork taken out of it for you. But when those things aren't presented to you, you struggle because you just got this work ethic and your focus is just in a million different directions, right? And equally, this can make it just as hard for you to ask for help because you're very type A, you're very headstrong. You know that you know what to do. You know how to work out. You know how to prep your food. You know how to track your food and eat right. Like, you know all that stuff, at least at a basic level, because you've done it before. But at the same time, the ego can get in the way and you don't want to ask for the help and accountability you need to actually get to that next level. But I always say the higher you go, the more help and support you need. Like, I've invested in myself at a high level. I've got coaches for everything, every area of my life that I'm serious about consistent growth in. And I realized that you never truly have it figured out, right? Like, I used to resist the idea of getting help because I thought it diminished whatever I was doing, the accomplishment that I was going after. But I realized, man, if you can minimize the time spent struggling and spinning your wheels and get to the next level, if you're coachable, that makes it a good fit, man. That makes you somebody who can actually get to the next level with the right help. All right, so get the help and accountability you need because you probably need it more than you think you do. All right, number 5 is going to be develop systems. Right? Just because you set a goal doesn't mean, all the work is done, all the prep is done. Right? James Clear in his book Atomic Habits, I like this quote. He says, "We don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems." Right? If New Year's just rolled around, if it were just as easy as having a big ambitious goal and, making it all sexy and talking about it to everyone, if it were that easy, everyone would have a six-pack by now. Everyone would be where they want to be with their business. Everyone would be where they want to be in life in general, right? Setting the goal is not enough. We need to develop systems that actually get us to our goal. So when I say develop systems, I mean things like, this is stuff I do with clients. Just once we take our goal, we want to chunk it down. We want to break it down into milestones, what we're reaching after, little checkpoints so that we don't get overwhelmed by the big goal. And then figure out what habits, what actions we need to implement on a daily basis to kind of get to those milestones. And then develop systems around it. What cadence, when am I going to prep my food? What's my standards for nutrition? How many drinks a week am I going to have? Like, having some type of system where you're actually able to hit those actions and those habits consistently. And that's, again, something I help people with. And it's kind of like combining the goal setting phase with the expectations and standards phase. We want to continue to implement systems to make sure that we're actually doing the things that we need to do on a daily basis. Right? And then lastly, kind of deals with identity. But you need to see yourself as the person you want to become first, then act. Kind of like what I said in the first section about the millionaire example. You got to stop comparing yourself to who you were when you played football and then thinking that you can't get back there. You guys know how many times I get on a call with somebody who used to play sport and they want to lose weight and they're like, "Yeah, man, I'd love to have a six-pack, but I don't think it's possible." Or, "I'd love to get to this weight, but, I wasn't that since high school, so I don't think it's possible." It's almost like they sell themselves short in terms of their goals, and they don't speak up authentically about what they truly want. because they're comparing themselves to who they were when they played sports, right? So again, it takes an identity shift, and it's something that's a work in progress. It's not something you're going to figure out in 5 minutes, but see yourself as the person you want to become first, then act. It's not the other way around. I know it's counterintuitive, but this is how you want to think about this stuff, because it makes the actions much more natural, because it's either in alignment or out of alignment with who you're trying to be. So guys, hope you found this training helpful. I guess we ran a little long here, probably like 25 minutes or so at this point. I'm curious to hear some of your big takeaways on this training in the comments. Again, let me know if you're watching this live or the replay, but just let me know your biggest takeaway below in the comments. And if you guys have any other questions or things you would like covered in a training like this, I'm always open to the feedback. Comment below or just shoot me a message and I'll get back to you guys as soon as possible. So thank you for watching.